All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on what part of the country you're joining us from today. I am Andrew Albers. I am the account executive with CDI, and I'm very excited to present to you our webinar today. Today, we're going to discuss using Laserfiche to streamline your business licensing with automation. One little housekeeping item before we get going. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat box, and I will be sure to answer them towards the end of the presentation. All right, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about business licensing, a very important process in a city, obviously a good source of revenue for the city. And the business license application and approval process can often be slow, inefficient, and paper-centric. Also, in many cases, the internal approval process is manual without transparency into the application's current status by city staff. Additionally, process metrics are not easily available to identify inefficiencies and provide a high-level view into the business process. By leveraging Laserfiche and its more advanced functionality, you can deploy an end-to-end electronic solution for your business license application process. From the electronic front-end submission that is followed by the automated and streamlined internal approval process, along with the implementation of an electronic payment gateway, you and your customers can enjoy a more efficient process and experience. I will be sure to touch on specific benefits of the solution as we go through the actual live demonstration. So what's required to make this happen? Essentially, what's required as far as Laserfiche platforms, it's the Laserfiche Avante, Rio, or subscription or cloud platforms. If you are on any of the older legacy platforms, please reach out to us and we can discuss upgrading your system with you. Happy to do that for you. The additional components in terms of licensing that are required is the Laserfiche Forms Professional. This is an add-on under Laserfiche Avante and Rio licensing. For Laserfiche subscription or cloud, you need to be on the professional users licensing tier or above to get Forms Professional. And Forms Professional is required in order for us to implement the payment gateway to be able to take the electronic payments for you. The additional component that's required is the Laserfiche Forms Portal. And this component then allows this form to obviously become a public-facing form for the business entities to be able to submit that form electronically. All right, let's get into our live demonstration here. So we're going to launch our Laserfiche landing page, and specifically, we want to focus here on the forms section. You can see we have additional forms that we've deployed for our Laserfiche repository. So there's a variety of forms that we can also help you with on top of obviously the one we're showing today, which is the business license application. So let's fire this form up. Now I've launched it from an internal link. However, for a live deployment, this would be a link on your external, city public-facing website, where public can simply click a link and be taken into the business license application form. When they're presented with this form can be fully customized in terms of its look and feel. We can make it look and feel exactly like the rest of your city website. So we can put your city logo up here. We can customize the background, colors, fonts. Again, we can just mimic the look and feel of your city's website. The form itself, this form itself is fully customizable. So this form is a sample that we've created for today's demonstration, but your form may have additional fields. It may be more complex. and we can definitely assist with developing your form depending on what it looks like. So let's start by filling this out for our business license application by filling out our applicant. So our applicant today is Mr. Robert De Niro. We're going to fill in his email address here as well. This is important for our email notifications that will be sent out as part of the process. The thing to point out here is all of the required fields have a red asterisk next to them. So essentially, this is required information. Without the required information, this form will not be able to be submitted. We can fill in the additional information here that's requested. And Bob's business. So we're going to call it, let's call it Bob's Birdhouses. All right, so the proposed date, let's just go with today's date here. Here we have the address information for the physical location of the business. So we can go ahead and fill this out here. In the next field, you'll notice we have a couple radio buttons, yes, no. So this is now we're presented with dynamic fields. If we click no, we have an additional section that pops up. This is specifically for our mailing address. So we can go ahead and fill in our mailing address here. Business phone number. Let's put the email in again here. All right, so next field, we got business square footage. So let's just go with, I mean, it's a real small shop. We'll go with 50 square feet. Number of employees, let's go with 1. It's just Bob. Any additional information about the business can be filled in here. Again, if your form looks different, we can definitely add or modify these fields, no problem there. The additional required field here is the nature of the business. So for us, we're in manufacturing, and what do? We make birdhouses. All right, so we have additional information here presented to the submitter as far as a note here, and there's an additional hyperlink. This can be useful for any additional instructions specific to this application. We can apply that here. Following that, we have additional information for this form. We'll just skip that. We'll just go to the required fields. This is a sole proprietorship, and we're going to fill out the sole proprietor information here again. All right. Address of residence, we'll just fill in the 192 address here. Phone number here. Email's not required in this part here. If there were additional owners or officers, you can have additional sections simply added by clicking the add button, or simply remove it and the form itself will collapse. And here in the following section, we have all of our legal disclosures, additional instructions follow that as well as with the application fee presented here. And we can go ahead and apply our signature. Another thing you'll notice that the date will get automatically populated because this is today's date when we're filling out this form. So we can go ahead and sign this form electronically. So here simply we can either type in the signature and it will get transferred over into sort of a handwritten version of Bob's signature here. I don't know what his real signature looks like, but I hope this is a good representation of it. Additionally, if the end user is on a device with a touch screen, they could simply use their finger to type to sign their name. I don't have a touch screen, so I'll do my best work with my mouse here. And we can click sign. All right, so now our form has been filled out. We can go ahead and submit this. All right. So our form has submitted. Our requester is now happy. He's been able to submit his form electronically without too much hassle. All right, so what happens next is a Laserfiche workflow kicks off here, and it's going to notify us of a new task, of a new action that's been created for this specific request. So if we go here in our little notification section, we can see there's a new task, and this is specific to this form that we're working on. And we can go ahead and see that this is the actual copy of the form submission that's been submitted. It's been filled out. We can see the signature that's been captured. So in our process here, we have it set up to where the user that's approving this form or working on this form initially to review it has the ability to assign it. So they can assign it to themselves, or they can additionally assign it to additional users, or perhaps a specific team that works on these business license applications. We can build in logic into the system where this can be an automated process, depending perhaps on the business type. You know, maybe you have a specific employee at the city that approves only specific business license applications, so we can build that logic in there to automatically notify just that correct and specific user that's part of this approval on this form. In my case here, I'm just going to assign this to myself. So now this is the initial approval on this form. We have our office use only section of the form here. Everything's been grayed out. That's been submitted. So we can go ahead and do our approval on this form. So we can fill in our business license number. This additional code can be filled in. We can also build in some logic to assign these license numbers automatically and dynamically. So that can be further automated and streamlined. What you'll notice here on our right, we have the actual action history presented on this form. So here's where we're getting into one big benefit of doing this process electronically. We're now gathering metrics. We have an action history of the time that this form's been submitted, and we can see how long it took to get to the next step in the process. So this is one way to provide a high-level overview to city staff, managers, department heads to see a specific action history on these applications. They can identify bottlenecks and any other inefficiencies. There's additional information here available under this section. Okay, so to go ahead and approve this form here, we'll review everything. We've assigned our license application number. Everything looks good to us. We can go ahead and click approve. However, if something was amiss or additional information is required, we can go ahead and put in our comments and click reject. And then the requester would get an email with the rejection and the explanation of why it's been rejected and what else is needed. So we're going to be nice, and we're going to approve Bob's business license here. All right, so that process has been now completed. It's out of our action history. So let's look at what it looks like in our Laserfiche repository, and some additional automation here happened behind the scenes. So when we go into our automation, into our Laserfiche repository, we will navigate into our business process library under our business licenses folder. Now you'll see that this folder has been dynamically created for Bob's Birdhouses for this specific application. So this is another automation, another streamlining of this whole process, that the Laserfiche system will dynamically create these folders for you in the system. There's no additional physical collating of documents required, no scanning required. Everything's electronic. This document and application is already residing in Laserfiche, making everything seamless. So when we go into our folder for this specific application, we can see the system has also dynamically created additional documents that are required as part of this process. So here we can see that our business license application copy was actually saved in the Laserfiche repository. We can see that the action history was also included here. And we have a copy of the actual submission here in Laserfiche, filed away in the correct folder, named correctly. The additional automation that happened is we've actually populated the actual physical business license document. So in our case, it's a Word document, and we've populated it to show the business name and the business owner with the signature, the date. Everything's populated into the actual business license. So this can be, into a Word document or a PDF. The additional thing to point out here is we have the expiration date automatically entered as a year out. And this becomes important because we can have an additional Laserfiche workflow running in the background and sending us reminders, perhaps 30 days before July 15th, 22, notifying us, the city, as well as the business owner, of their upcoming license expiration and the renewal. So we can go ahead and automate this process where we send a notification of the upcoming renewal. And we can also at that time present the payment gateway to take the additional renewal payment. So further automation is possible with the solution here. So let's go back and look what happened with our email notifications for this specific application for Mr. Robert De Niro. When we go into our email here, we have a couple notifications that were sent out. On the initial submission, Mr. Robert De Niro got a notification saying that his application's been received and it's in process. Once the business license application was reviewed, an additional email was sent out notifying Robert De Niro of the payment required. So he got another email. With the email itself, there was an invoice that's been sent out and attached to our email. So we have our invoice. Additionally, the payment gateway instructions and link were also sent to him to be able to take the payment electronically, perhaps further improving this process. So if we click that, Robert De Niro is now able to pay for his business license electronically. All right, so there's a couple different options for this payment gateway. We can incorporate PayPal, but typically the most popular feature is just to allow the requester to use a credit card or a debit card. So they can go ahead and fill that information in over here regarding their payment type. So we'll do that. And our expiration date. And our CVV code. Alrighty, so now our payment has been taken electronically. So an additional email was sent out now. And this email is a notification notifying Mr. Robert De Niro that his payment has been processed successfully. And behind the scenes in our Laserfiche repository, an additional document was added with the proof of payment. So anybody looking in here can see that the payment has been processed successfully for Mr. Robert De Niro. So now what can happen next is we can send an additional email notification to Mr. De Niro, whether we're attaching the actual business license via an email or giving him instructions on how to pick it up at the city hall, or perhaps we're mailing it. That's going to be dependent upon you. However, we can send, additional email notifications to the requester for next steps. Additionally, if your process has additional approval steps in it, we can definitely incorporate that into the process. You may have additional staff working on business applications, perhaps with additional approval steps or additional reviews. So those can also be incorporated into the business license application process. It can be fully customized and streamlined. All right, so the additional benefit of this solution here is metrics. So with Laserfiche, with everything being electronic, it being in forms, we have the ability to do metrics. And that's done through Laserfiche reports here. There's a variety of metrics that we can look at. In our case, we're going to select the business license application here, and we can look on our performance metrics. So this will give you a high-level view into your business process. On the right side, we have the process details, so we can see the average cycle time of how long things are taking to get approved of business license applications. And then we have the number of instances, so we can see how many business license applications are submitted. And this information can be sorted by, you can do additional date range search type searches and narrow down your display criteria for these forms. So that's the real benefit of a solution, is getting these metrics, getting this high-level overview into the process, identifying your inefficiencies, bottlenecks, and providing essentially a streamlined experience for your customers, making it more efficient, more transparent, and you're essentially assuring the continued stream of revenue into the city for these business licenses, especially with that addition of the Laserfiche workflow that can send those notification reminders for upcoming renewals. All right, so that essentially concludes the live demonstration. I wanted to go ahead and open it up for any questions that you may have. Go ahead and put them in the chat box. All right, if there are no questions, there are additional resources for you. Obviously, our CDI website is an excellent resource of Laserfiche content and information. Also want to point out our YouTube channel, excellent resource with a variety of Laserfiche content, videos regarding building forms, building workflows, additionally providing you with how-to guides, and all of our past webinars are also housed in the YouTube library under Cities Digital. So great resource. Here is our contact information. My contact information is here. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to discuss specific forms, not only business license applications, but any additional forms you might be interested in digitizing and automating with Laserfiche. Feel free to reach out. And then the additional contact information for our various departments also listed here. And finally, thank you for your time. We do absolutely appreciate it. We value your support and look forward to working with you on any Laserfiche forms you might be interested in digitizing and automating with Laserfiche.